misterios inexplicables.
Todos adoramos un buen misterio. Todo lo que sabemos sobre nuestro planeta proviene de la profunda curiosidad humana. Una pizca de poder o misterio aún puede sorprendernos inesperadamente. Lluvias de variados objetos han caído del cielo. Décadas antes de la bomba, una explosión inexplicable arrasó kilómetros de bosque siberiano. Y en sembradíos de todo el mundo, diseños misteriosos han aparecido de un día para el otro. Nuestro misterio inexplicable número 10. En la década de los 80, círculos de cultivos aplastados aparecieron en algunos campos ingleses. Desde entonces, más de 2000 círculos de cultivos, que iban desde formas simples a complejos pictogramas, aparecieron en Japón, Australia, la ex Unión Soviética y los Estados Unidos. El debate se centra en, ¿estos diseños son fenómenos extraterrestres, naturales o bromas hechas por el hombre? Hoy los círculos en cultivos pueden ser matemáticamente complejos y muy precisos. Para muchos, estas características eliminan las teorías sobre causas naturales. ¿Estarán también más allá de las limitaciones humanas?
We are now into designs that are much more complex than the simple designs of yesteryear. In short, there's much too much going on for me to believe that the pranksters, the hoaxers, play any major part at all in today's crop circles.
Well, in fact, we've heard that all throughout history. We've heard that the Egyptians were just quite incapable of producing these wonderful mathematical things called pyramids. You know, they really had to have alien help. And that's really a form of racism, isn't it?
Los investigadores afirman que el trigo aplastado presenta alteraciones físicas. Esas modificaciones pueden verse durante años.
The plants are indeed disturbed well beyond anything that you and I could inflict on a plant. Something is going on that indicates that we are not alone in the universe. Now that's exciting.
Pero no todos están emocionados.
The difference in crop circle plant structure versus the structure of plants outside the crop circle may be simply because of the way the crop circle was made. So this doesn't mean they're magical or extraterrestrial or anything special.
Information theory would suggest there are much better ways of communicating with human beings, saying that you are not alone, than simply making very ornate patterns in a wheat field.
Entonces, ¿los círculos de cultivo son simples bromas o contacto alienígena? Mientras que algunos círculos se revelaron como fraudes de bromistas con tablones, miles de otros se mantienen inexplicables.
If it isn't a hoax, then we start to use our heads to find out where it is that we stand in regards to an intelligence that is coming to us from elsewhere. My theory is that indeed we have visitors to this planet.
La ciencia tradicional aún no tomó en serio a los círculos de cultivos, pero los mensajes están ahí afuera, escritos en nuestros campos de trigo. Nuestro misterio número 10 tal vez contiene mensajes del espacio exterior. ¿Podría el noveno contener mensajes del cielo? El 21 de septiembre de 1995 se publicaron reportes sobre estatuas hindúes que bebían ofrendas de leche. Miles de personas presenciaron este fenómeno y Nueva Delhi recibió a millones de personas que visitaban a las estatuas sagradas. ¿Milagro o histeria masiva?
With all the important things going on in the world, all the great places where God could be doing some really meaningful miracles, that's the best God can do is absorb, soak milk through his representative stone statues. I think it's pathetic.
La Iglesia Católica también mira con escepticismo a la mayoría de las afirmaciones de milagros.
A figure appears by some normal natural phenomena of discoloration on a glass window, and it looks a bit like an outline of the picture of the Virgin Mary. Well, people get all excited. The church in modern times never would give any approval to such an event. Like everybody else, the church lives in the time it lives in, and we live in a scientific time.
Así que, ¿dónde se puede hallar prueba de Dios en esta era científica? El objeto más estudiado en la historia del hombre es el sudario de Turín. Muchos creen que se trata del paño mortuorio de Cristo mencionado en la Biblia.
We were the first scientific team ever given an extensive period of time for an in-depth examination of the shroud, which we did over a period of 120 hours in October of 1978. One of the very first things that was discovered about the shroud was that, wait a minute, unlike all of the artist's renderings and paintings that throughout history, this shows blood stains in the wrists, not in the palm.
El sudario también mostraba marcas de azotes de un látigo romano y sangre de una corona de espinas.
In recorded, documented history, we only have one person who suffered a particular set of tortures, and that man was Jesus.
Los resultados de las primeras investigaciones fueron tan prometedores que en 1988 la Iglesia Católica accedió a un examen de la antigüedad del sudario. Si el sudario databa del siglo I, se le consideraría evidencia física de la existencia de Jesucristo. Pero las pruebas de carbono 14 revelaron que el sudario era como máximo del siglo XIII. Para algunos, esto fue suficiente para descartarlo como fraude, pero había factores que hacían cuestionable la precisión de la prueba.
The protocol itself was modified at the last minute. Rather than 7 tests across different sections of the shroud, it was narrowed down to 1 test.
Además, se cree que en 1532 un incendio chamuscó el sudario, imposibilitando la precisión de la prueba de carbono 14. Pero los escépticos se preguntan, ¿por qué se investiga el sudario? Utilizando materiales disponibles para un artista medieval, Joe Nickel logra crear un sudario aceptable.
Here's an image that I've taken a little more care with and finished and mounted. Now when we photograph this, we get this effect, which looks very much like the mysterious face on the Shroud of Turin.
Pero las réplicas pintadas no logran refutar lo obvio.
I always tell folks that if it were a painting, simple science would have made that discovery many years ago.
Entonces, ¿el sudario es ciencia medieval o un milagro?
I don't think it's that critical that we find out the truth behind the shroud. From a spiritual point of view, the image is already there. That really becomes less a matter of science and more a matter of faith.
Mientras que el número 9 apela a nuestras esperanzas espirituales, el misterio inexplicable número 8 se basa en nuestros más oscuros miedos. Es difícil ver inclusive a unos pocos metros dentro del Loch Ness en Escocia. Sin embargo, una extraña criatura ha sido vista 10.000 veces en esas profundidades sombrías. Aunque una famosa foto del monstruo del Loch Ness se ha revelado como un fraude, millones de dólares se han gastado buscando a la bestia del lago. La mejor evidencia hasta ahora, unas pocas y ambiguas ondas de sonar.
In the case of Loch Ness, it has been searched for 40 years. No one has found anything. You have one small loch in Scotland that should contain the monster. There's nothing there. I'm sorry, there's nothing there.
Lo mismo se dijo del más famoso monstruo en tierra. Hasta que el primer gorila fue sacado de la selva, los cuentos de los exploradores africanos sobre bestias gigantes y peludas fueron tomados como fantasías. Entonces, ¿es posible que haya otro simio vagando por el mundo con una altura de más de 3,5 metros?
In the United States, the Indians have a long tradition of knowledge of the existence of this creature. It's not something that just has started in the 50s and 60s when the name Bigfoot was popularized.
Los reportes sobre simios erectos no están limitados a los Estados Unidos. China, Rusia y Sudamérica también tienen sus hombres salvajes y peludos.
I mean, you're crossing a wide range of cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds, and even time. And people are still reporting the same kind of thing. That's the kind of anecdotal evidence that means something.
¿Hay alguna evidencia real de que este animal existe? Las pruebas de ADN de cabellos hallados en los lugares de las apariciones revelan que se trata de un primate. Sin embargo, son demasiado pequeñas para permitir mayor identificación.
The primary evidence is the footprints. That's where the name Bigfoot comes from. The footprints are there. They're real. They are measurable. Some of the footprints that have been found have dermal ridges in them, the equivalent of your fingerprints. Things that your average hoaxer wouldn't take the time to do.
Pero ¿pueden las falsificaciones individuales explicar las huellas halladas en todo el mundo?
The consistency of the tracks over decades and spread geographically across the United States, to have such a concerted effort of hoaxers is really more difficult to conceive than the idea that there is a Bigfoot creature roaming around.
The only way Bigfoot could exist for this long is if there was a decent-sized breeding population. And since these things have been spotted all over the world, there would have to be countless good-sized breeding populations. Statistically speaking, by now we would have found some bodies, and we haven't. So in my opinion, they don't exist.
Pero algunos dicen que es difícil encontrar el cadáver de un oso y nadie duda de que existan.
When animals die, the other animals spread the carcass around, and so it just doesn't last very long.
Pero sin huesos, sangre o un cuerpo, Pie Grande permanece relegado a los bosques de la mitología.
The only way to definitively prove that there's a Bigfoot out there is to bring in a body. We keep saying it's just a matter of time.
Hasta el momento, los humanos solo pueden preguntarse sobre la existencia de otro primate que camina erecto. Desde los campos a los bosques y al rostro de Cristo, estos son solo algunos de los 10 más inexplicables misterios, y nuestra lista se vuelve aún más extraña. A continuación, abordaremos un barco abandonado en busca del misterio número 7.
This is a good day for a ghost hunt.
Hasta ahora, nuestra lista de los 10 más inexplicables misterios incluye círculos de cultivos, milagros y monstruos. El número 7 se relaciona con este mundo y el más allá. En la bahía de Alameda se halla el último de una gran línea de barcos de guerra. Fuera de servicio, los únicos habitantes del Hornet son los que han muerto y regresado a pasar a bordo la eternidad.
I feel it really strong. I don't want to.
It's in that corner.
It's in that corner.
It's in that corner. Yeah. He burned himself. Ow. Hey, this is a good day for a ghost hunt.
Desde que existe el hombre, hay visiones de fantasmas.
In the records of ancient civilizations, there is talk of spirits, of people after they have died, whether they've gone to an afterlife or are stuck around here. So this is a very ancient thing because it's part of human experience.
Si ver es creer, entonces las fotografías brindan las más provocadoras evidencias de fantasmas.
One of the things when we look at ghost photographs from the middle to late 19th century, they were almost invariably deliberate forgeries. Most of the ghost photographs that are made today are created by accident. The flash can go off outdoors and capture water droplets in the air, or often the camera's own strap. I'm going to take a picture of our model here, and I'm going to dangle the camera strap in front of the lens, and we'll see how that photo comes out. The person knows that he or she didn't see anything like that, so the assumption is made that this is some sort of a paranormal event.
Pero ¿qué pasa en los casos donde más de una persona informa haber visto al mismo fantasma? En el Hornet, 3 personas afirman haber visto al fantasma del almirante de popa J.J. Clark.
I do pick up somebody that is working some was a desk or cabinet or something. Immediately when I came on the ship, I had encountered the spirit of Admiral J.J. Clark. He was a rear admiral that served on the ship between 1944 and 45.
When I saw the spirit go down the ladder below me, I saw him with both eyes, and I was looking straight at him. It wasn't just a glimpse.
I saw someone, a man. His arms were to the side, just standing up straight. When I saw a picture of the Admiral, it was the same features. He's the same man I saw.
Bingo, bingo.
Pero ¿por qué volverían los fantasmas de la muerte?
It makes perfect sense that ghosts are seen where people are. And it makes perfect sense that you typically find an association with the location. It essentially boils down to the fact that ghosts are people too. They're dead people, but they're still people.
Y según muchos, puede enseñarnos algo.
And down in that corridor, I've picked up somebody else. Having the ability to see the souls that have passed on has given me a wonderful knowledge and understanding of the life and death process, which really, we think of life as a process, but we don't really include death in it. Death is a part of life. That's a part of the process of life.
Puede ser reconfortante pensar que no desaparecemos después de la muerte, pero para aquellos aún vivos y sanos, el misterio inexplicable número 6 puede ser la clave para mantenerse así. Cada martes, el padre Peter McCall y Marianne Lacey conducen misas de curación en Dobbs Ferry, Nueva York. Cientos vienen a ser curados de enfermedades físicas por el poder de Dios. Aquí se entregan alabanzas y se recibe cura.
I know that it was God's hand that healed me. I have no other explanation of it. I just know that that's true.
The biopsy showed negative. Wasn't any signs of cancer. Do I believe it's a miracle? Absolutely.
Los milagros de curación son los únicos milagros modernos aceptados por la Iglesia Católica para la canonización de los santos. Como tales, son rigurosamente verificados.
For a healing miracle to be certified, it must be a life-threatening symptom whose existence is proven by empirical scientific data, for instance, X-ray, cured instantly or very rapidly without any medical treatment, without a recovery period, and without a relapse.
Help him, Lord.
I credit the Catholic Church with being reasonable about their investigations. The problem here is that having a doctor say, we can't explain it, technically that's all it means. That doesn't mean it's inexplicable. which therefore requires some miraculous intervention to explain it. It just means we don't know.
And I hear you're doing very well, huh? And Jesus is healing you, huh? Go ahead, Father.
Most diseases get better on their own. Even serious diseases can go into remission. We know that in almost every form of cancer, there is a certain percentage of cases that go into spontaneous remission. We don't know why, but someone just happens to be at the right place at the right time, and their illness goes into remission. They're likely to say, I think it was the healer.
Spontaneous remission is the medical term for a miracle. It means the same thing. It's the limitation of their profession, that they can only deal with physical things that they see in front of them. A miracle is beyond that. It's beyond the laws of nature.
Thank you for bringing her here today, that she may experience your love and your peace and your consolation.
Si la gente cree que la cura de fe le está haciendo bien, ¿cuál es el peligro?
The danger in people believing in miracles is this. You actually have documented cases of people giving up their traditional medicines and taking on these other worthless things and dying.
Milagro o suerte médica. Aquellos que han sido curados sienten que ya tienen la respuesta.
People have said to me, but MS goes into remission, Jane. And I'm like, you know, if that's what you want to believe, that's fine. But in my deepest being, I was healed through the power of Jesus Christ.
El número 5 de nuestra lista puede ser el más horripilante de los misterios humanos. CHE, combustión humana espontánea.
Spontaneous human combustion is the ability of the body to smoke, blister, or otherwise burn without contacting a source of ignition. Spontaneous human combustion is horrific, macabre, and according to mainstream science, impossible.
Desde los más tempranos casos de CHE en el siglo XV, la combustión humana espontánea ha sido explicada algunas veces como un castigo de Dios.
100 years ago, it was claimed that all victims of spontaneous human combustion were alcoholics and drunkards. This was the vengeful wrath of God for living an immoral, intemperate life.
En el siglo XX hubo más de 300 casos de combustión espontánea. Y de acuerdo con las estadísticas, este fenómeno está en ascenso. En 1974, el fallecido Jack Angel sobrevivió a un incendio que, según los médicos, venía desde adentro.
When Mr. Angel awoke from a prolonged sleep, he noticed that his right forearm and hand had been charred black, burned to the bone, he told us. We have Mr. Angel's medical records based on that treatment. The medical reports diagnose the injuries as, quote, internal in origin.
Peter Jones afirma ser víctima de CHE. Su esposa fue testigo.
All of a sudden, he appeared to erupt in a cloud of smoke, and it appeared to be coming from his legs.
And I jumped up and looked under the bed and the covers and everything, and couldn't find anything burning.
When it was over, I said, "What was that, Peter?" And he said, "Beats the hell out of me."
¿Pudo haber sido combustión espontánea?
People that don't think it exists, that's great. I mean, I really don't care whether they think it exists or not. It happened to me.
Uno de los casos de CHE más extraños e investigados del siglo XX es el del llameante destino del bombero George Mott.
On the mattress in which Mr. Mott burned through lay one lower right leg, severed cleanly just below the knee joint. The rest of Mr. Mott's 180-pound body had burned basically to powder.
The individual himself burnt through the floor, and the damn house didn't burn down. So how do you do that?
¿Qué fue lo que causó esta llamarada y cómo puede un fuego arder tanto como para consumir un hombre y aún así dejar la habitación en pie?
Our people went through the electrical, went through the gas stove, went through the heater. We determined that it was not suicide. We determined it was not a homicide. The only thing possible would be spontaneous human combustion.
Pero no todos coinciden. Los científicos afirman que la combustión espontánea no es sobrenatural, sino producto del efecto Pavilo, en el cual el cuerpo se prende fuego y arde en su propio combustible. En algunos casos, las muertes accidentales en incendios se ven como CHE. En 1997, John DeHaan probó su teoría prendiendo fuego a un cadáver de cerdo de 54 kilos envuelto en una manta de algodón.
One of the most startling effects of these kinds of scenes is the destruction of the bones. They actually still looked like they were intact, but if you attempted to touch them, they were like picking up a cigarette ash. They would just crumble.
El experimento probó a los científicos que un incendio puede reducir un cuerpo a cenizas sin extenderse, pero para los creyentes había dos problemas.
That's not really a fair experiment because in many cases that history is called SHC. There is no external ignition. If you don't have an external ignition source, if you don't have an accelerant dousing the body to make it more flammable, then you apparently have a real dilemma, which brings us back to spontaneous human combustion.
¿Qué hay detrás de estas increíbles llamas que parecen hacer erupción desde dentro del cuerpo humano?
In our 25 years of research into this phenomenon, we have yet to find someone who, having seen all the evidence, can tell us, oh yes, this is how this happened. Spontaneous human combustion is one of the great mysteries confronting medicine and mankind.
Si el cuerpo tiene esta inexplicable capacidad de incendiarse, ¿de qué poder inexplicable da cuenta el misterio número 4? La predicción, un negocio millonario. 2/3 de los norteamericanos creen en fenómenos psíquicos y un 60% cree que tuvo experiencias psíquicas. ¿Es posible ver a través del tiempo y del espacio?
One of the common methods that psychics use to get people to believe in them is something called a multiple out. For example, let's assume I had a dream last night in which I was in a serious car accident. And sometime in the next day or week, I'm in a serious car accident. That can make the dream look prophetic. But what if my friend is in a serious car accident? My girlfriend is in one. That's a hit too.
There's a lot of shoe fitting going on in regard to psychic experiences. But this is precisely why we bring ESP into the laboratory. One of the more successful experiments that we've been using and other labs have been using is called the Ganzfeld experiment. What we're finding is 34, 35, even higher percentages of hitting, which means that somehow these subjects are getting the information more than chance would allow.
Cuando en la Guerra Fría los Estados Unidos recibieron informes de que los rusos usaban espías medium para conseguir información y planear tácticas militares, no se rieron. Gastaron $20 millones para alcanzarlos.
The Stargate program was a federally funded investigation of extrasensory perception to see whether it was real, or secondly, if it were real, could we use it for matters of national interest, like for the military or to gather intelligence.
We worked at empty desks with papers and pens. Normally our tasking was usually given to us in a sealed envelope. What they would say to us is something like, well, we've lost a piece of equipment, and it can be anywhere in the northeastern continental United States. You need to tell us where it's located.
Durante más de 17 años, Joe McMoneagle fue uno de los mejores visualizadores remotos, un término militar para clarividente. En 1981, el Stargate usó a McMoneagle en un esfuerzo por localizar al general James Dozier, secuestrado en Italia por las Brigadas Rojas. McMonagall pudo indicar calle, edificio y estado del general. Todos los detalles fueron confirmados durante el rescate.
My accuracy in the Dozier case really surprised me. With remote viewing, it's one of the surprises you always get. See, one of the deficiencies with remote viewing is really knowing just how accurate the information is until it's used.
Las teorías abundan, pero nadie sabe con seguridad cómo se transmite o recibe esta información crítica.
Information goes from here to here in ways we don't understand. We name that anomaly extrasensory perception. Do I believe in it? No. But is the evidence for something interesting going in? Absolutely.
Desde la inexplicable incineración humana hasta la percepción extrasensorial, los misterios números 4 y 5 prueban que lo más misterioso del mundo radica dentro del cuerpo humano. A continuación, creyentes y escépticos discuten, ¿estamos solos? Nuestra cuenta regresiva ya incluye fantasmas y percepción extrasensorial. Si los espíritus y pensamientos viajan a través del aire, ¿qué pasa con nuestro misterio número 3? Objetos voladores no identificados.
Have you all had any reports of unknown flying objects over there? No, we haven't. Oh, okay, we're wondering. We supposedly are having quite an invasion over here.
Mientras investigaba en los archivos de la Nación, Sam Sherman descubrió una cinta sin clasificación, una extraña documentación del gobierno sobre la visión de un ovni.
On October 7th, 1965, at Edwards Air Force Base in California, the air traffic controller noticed odd luminous objects coming over the field.
Roger, we have a possible radar contact now, ranged up 3 miles, green, red, and white flashing lights.
Según Sherman, estos objetos fueron captados por radares de 8 localidades del oeste de Estados Unidos. Temiendo naves enemigas, la Fuerza Aérea lanzó las suyas para investigar.
This thing just bing, went up, evaded him, and that was it.
Las menciones de luces no identificadas datan de la Edad Media.
They weren't called UFOs, they weren't called flying saucers, but certainly they would be the same type of phenomena. It's been there throughout history if you know how to look and where to look.
Las interpretaciones humanas de los ovni cambiaron a través de los tiempos. Los naturalistas del siglo XVIII los llamaban gas y plasma. En la revolución industrial, estas visiones se convirtieron en máquinas y aviones. Y con la era espacial, llegó la época de los platillos voladores.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers.
Hacia 1948, las visiones de ovni de testigos creíbles fueron tan numerosas que la Fuerza Aérea decidió investigar. Por otras 2 décadas, el proyecto Blue Book recolectó información de 12.600 casos de objetos en el cielo, desde globos aerostáticos a eventos meteorológicos. En 1969, el proyecto fue cerrado con esta declaración.
We have, as of date, come to only one firm conclusion, and that is that it does not contain any conceivable threat to the United States.
It's important to make the distinction between the question, are there extraterrestrial intelligences somewhere in the universe, and have they actually come here?
There are thousands, even tens of thousands of sightings around the world annually. But most of these, of course, everyone would admit, 90%, even high 90s%, that these are natural phenomena. Many people don't even realize that the stars actually appear to move during the night.
Los errores de identificación son numerosos, pero los estudiosos insisten en que las naves espaciales tienen características especiales.
They move in ways that airplanes just don't move in. We're talking right-angle turns, stop on a dime, hover, go straight up in the air, come down in weird floating patterns like a leaf.
Well, we don't know what extraterrestrial or other intelligence-type craft should look like, but we know what our own stuff looks like. If we find something up there which doesn't obey the laws of physics as we know it, We can say that they belong to somebody else. Somebody else knows something we don't.
En la medianoche del 19 de septiembre de 1961, Betty y Barney Hill estaban conduciendo en New Hampshire cuando afirmaron haber visto una luz con forma de plato con 2 hileras de ventanas que parecía estarlos siguiendo. 2 horas después, Barney y Betty despertaron 36 kilómetros al sur de donde se habían detenido. Bajo hipnosis, evocaron imágenes terroríficas de pequeños alienígenas grises que extraían de ellos muestras de cabello, uñas y piel. Esta fue la primera historia que el mundo escuchó sobre el misterio número 2. Desde aquella noche de 1961, miles de personas afirmaron haber sido víctimas de abducciones y experimentos alienígenas.
An abduction experience is fast, efficient, very traumatic to the person, and very often the memory of it is partially wiped out.
El debate en el campo de la hipnosis cuestiona la precisión de los recuerdos del secuestro.
This is a case of false memories planted by therapists through this guided imagery, this fantasy role-playing, because that's what hypnosis is. It's fantasy role-playing between the hypnotist and the subject.
Pero los terapeutas creen poder probar que un paciente hipnotizado no seguiría mansamente una historia guiada.
In a given hypnotic session, I can ask probably 10, 20 leading questions, false leads, and I've never had anybody slip up.
Dado que muchos secuestros ocurren en la cama, por la noche, los escépticos descartan el fenómeno como parálisis del sueño.
This occurs when a person is in that funny in-between state between just falling asleep and just being awake. During that state, your body is usually paralyzed, but your mind is awake. Apparently the dream mechanism is kind of kicking on, so you're having these dreams, but you're awake but paralyzed.
There's a lot of attendant other things which do not go along with sleep paralysis. For instance, if you have a group of people who have been taken from different places into the same craft, when they're dressed, sometimes they go back in somebody else's clothes. A woman who had a running suit on when she went to bed who doesn't own a nightgown, when they put her back in bed, she was wearing somebody's fancy nightgown that she was terrified to find.
Para Beth Collins y Anna Jamerson, la prueba está en los recuerdos. Ellas afirman que fueron examinadas juntas más de una vez.
Beth and I have many recollections of experiences where we have been abducted together. And one morning, we were both feeling pretty sick. And I said, something happened. And she says, well, last night, the aliens were there, and I saw them inject something in the back of your neck. Can I check the back of your neck underneath your hair? I said, sure, you won't find anything. But she did. There was a hole in the back of my neck exactly where she had seen them inject me with something into the back of my brain.
I thought being crazy would be preferable to telling anyone, even Anna, that this is what I remembered. I couldn't pretend that it didn't happen, and I couldn't forget what I remembered.
When you have evidence like that, it's very hard not to believe that you are really being abducted. And I know I'm being abducted.
After I had gone through so many cases and seen so much trauma and so much physical evidence, I, at some point, was asked, do you really believe all this? And I said, with sadness, I realized I no longer had the luxury of disbelief.
Desde extrañas naves en el cielo a extraños tripulantes a bordo, los misterios inexplicables números 2 y 3 demuestran nuestra fascinación con la vida fuera de nuestro mundo. Al regresar, el más inexplicable misterio de la vida. Desde la mente hasta el espacio exterior, el debate entre creencia y escepticismo nos lleva al más inexplicable misterio. Desde el momento en que nacemos, caminamos hacia nuestra propia muerte. El concepto de una vida después de la muerte es el principio fundamental de las principales religiones. Pero el misterio inexplicable número 1 sigue siendo, ¿hay alguna prueba de la vida más allá de la muerte?
I had lost my body and I'd become a little blue star. At the time, this seemed like a very normal thing for me to have happen. I had an idea of myself going, wow, I don't have a body anymore. I'm free of my body.
If you can imagine on Star Trek when they go into warp speed, how you see all the lights kind of go, whew, well, that's how it felt. And now I'm going, at what felt like, I don't know, a zillion miles an hour.
Toda cultura tiene su propia idea del más allá. Pero ¿de dónde obtenemos el conocimiento de mundos más allá del nuestro?
There's been an effort for at least a century to examine the afterlife and visitations with the dead and spiritual communication. People don't want to die. They're crushed when their loved ones die. What can they do? Can they transcend death?
Oh, I think life after death, God, the spirit world, something that's beyond the physical here and now. That's the ultimate mystery that fascinates people and cannot be tested ultimately by science, and short of going there. But you can't come back to report what happened.
O sí podemos. La tecnología médica de avanzada puede traer gente de vuelta 10, 20 o incluso 30 minutos después de un paro cardíaco o pulmonar. Aquellos que regresan del borde comparten cuentos increíblemente similares.
Very commonly, people have what's called an out-of-body experience. In other words, they see their consciousness apart from their body. Very often following that, they'll have a tunnel experience. At the end of that tunnel, they'll generally encounter beings of light. These beings may be deceased relatives or friends or perhaps religious figures. Very often at this time, they'll have a life review.
Algunos científicos sostienen que estas experiencias en realidad describen el proceso fisiológico de la muerte.
What happens in near-death experiences from a physiological point of view is that the brain loses its oxygen supply, or its oxygen supply is reduced. That causes neurons in the visual part of the brain, the visual cortex, to start responding very rapidly for a period of time. And that results in the perception of these long tunnels, bright lights, that sort of thing.
En pruebas de laboratorio, la pérdida de conocimiento inducida por gravedad generó experiencias de abandono del cuerpo, visión de túneles y luces blancas, duplicando algunas de las experiencias de regreso de la muerte.
About 15% of people have what we call frightening near-death experiences.
There were people being tortured and volcanoes erupting and brown sludge and screaming and people, you know, just their heads on pikes and everything you can imagine of in the classic idea of a hell. If it was true that it was just the body's physiological response to death, I would think that everyone would have an identical experience, but I didn't.
Los que la experimentaron pudieron contar conversaciones ocurridas en habitaciones distantes, leer etiquetas fuera del alcance de la vista e incluso traer información concreta del más allá.
Occasionally during near-death experience accounts, people encounter someone that identifies themselves as a relative that they had during their life. And they may say, I don't remember, I never had a brother, I never had a sister. And yet, they come to find out that this was a brother or a sister who died perhaps very, very early in their life. Certainly evidential that something's going on up there.
Si la gente ha regresado desde el límite y más allá, ¿qué mensajes trae a su regreso?
What I experienced was a huge downloading of information. Before I could ask, well, what, am I dying? I heard, we don't die. The body dies. The spirit, the soul never dies.
Probably the greatest mystery that confronts humanity is what happens after we die. Millions of people have had experiences like this. This is very common. The message they bring back, very consistent. There is an afterlife, and it's wonderful.
¿Hay vida al final del túnel? La pregunta fundamental finaliza nuestra cuenta regresiva de los 10 misterios más inexplicables. La necesidad de crear un mundo gobernado por reglas confiables es esencial para la mente humana. Y sin embargo, las preguntas fundamentales continúan eludiéndonos. Aunque aprendimos más sobre la Tierra y el cosmos en los últimos 25 años que en toda la historia registrada, cuanto más indagamos, más misterioso se vuelve el mundo.
In the expanding sphere of scientific knowledge, the more it grows, the greater its contact with the unknown. And so it will always encounter more and more unknown. We're never going to know everything.